This episode of the Fight Within podcast is presented to you by Meguiar's. For over 115 years, Meguiar's has been carefully creating and producing advanced formulas with cutting-edge chemistry to deliver a show car perfect appearance. Whether you're showing on the fairway, finalizing your car for auction, or simply getting your beloved car ready for a weekend drive, Meguiar's is ready to help with their premium car care products to make every automotive surface look its absolute best. Meguiar's, reflect your passion. Make sure to visit them at meguiars.com.
What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Fight Within podcast. Today's guest is Dana Harvey. He is the founder of Harvey's and the creator of the Seatbelt bag. So
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys. It's an honor to be here. I've been, tuning into the podcast. I'm very impressed with what you guys are doing and
Awesome.
the caliber that you're bringing in.
Thank you.
Myself included. No, I'm just kidding. No, it is. It's really good to see what you guys are doing, and it's consistent. So, I'm always tuning in and I get the notifications.
That's awesome,
That's
man.
cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, sign up for the notifications, guys.
Thank you. Yes, listen. He's a smart guy. He's a smart guy. Well, I'm gonna take your line.
Go for it.
So,
Go.
Dana, we've known each other for a couple years now, a few years, I guess.
Yeah.
But I don't really know your story. So, give us a little bit. Give us a little background about yourself, kind of, how you got to where you're at now, and then we'll kind of just dig into it.
Okay. I guess I'll start, with my journey to the U.S. So I was born and raised in the South Pacific. So born in Australia, but raised in New Zealand.
That is
And,
confusing.
Yeah, I know.
Don't you guys hate each other too? Isn't there that rival?
Well, my mother is native of New Zealand.
Okay.
She's Maori, and so Polynesian. And my dad is, European descent, Australian. So we got the little mixed race going on.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's not as much of a dichotomy, I think, as a lot of people
think.
build up. But, when it comes to rugby, it is. But,
Yeah.
I can just, whoever's winning, I'll be like, oh, that's my team. So sit on the fence. No, but I think I am more, a Kiwi because I grew up most of my life in New Zealand. And a lot of my, close cousins are, are in New Zealand. And so I think that's what I really call home, although, I visit both still. But,
Okay.
Yeah. But, growing up, I always loved America. I mean, just it's the culture, all the movies, all the good music. And so, my dream was to come to America, someday. And I ended up coming here on vacation back in 1986, and I never went home.
That's
Well,
cool.
I went home a couple times to visit, but but just to visit. But yeah, it's once I got here, I just loved everything. I mean, all the cars, all the music, all the movies, and walking in Hollywood, and landing in Southern California. That's kind of the hot spot of the culture, I guess. So I never imagined that I would come to build a business here and raise a family and do all the things that I've been able to. But I guess that's a testament to
The American dream.
Yeah, the American dream and the opportunities that are here for an immigrant to move over here and be able to work hard and just achieve what I've been able to achieve. So
I just got the chills a little bit. No, seriously, because when we were talking about, on our last episode with Wing, we were saying the same thing of he has the American dream. They came here from another country, and we're living in such a heated time with whatever you want to think. But I said last time, and I'm a believer of it now, it's like America is the greatest country on the face of this planet, and there's a reason why people come here to have that experience.
Definitely,
You
yeah.
get to have the opportunity to have that experience. In a lot of countries, you don't even get the opportunity. And so hearing that stuff, obviously, as I'm a big America guy, so it makes me feel good when I hear that stuff.
yeah, for sure. I love this country. I think before I even moved here, and I think like a lot of immigrants that move here, you're chasing a dream, and I didn't know what that dream was, and I just I realized as I got here it was just work hard and have a dream and pursue it, and I wound up in I guess the handbag industry, which I never thought I would, but it's interesting because you never know the skills that you learn when you're a kid, how that's going to, carve out your future. And so my mother was a seamstress, and she worked in a factory, and I actually grew up in the daycare at her factory. And so she, it was just second nature to me to be around sewing machines. And so, as a little kid growing up, like being around that, if I had known, like, hey, one day this is what you're going to be doing, you'd never think that.
Yeah.
And then my parents actually were also entrepreneurs, and they owned restaurants. And so the restaurant business was a tough one, but, ever since I could stand on a milk crate, I was helping out washing dishes and, whatever, just, contributing to the family business. So I think it instilled in me like a drive to be entrepreneurial, and it seemed like second nature to me. And when I met my wife, she thought it was like, wow, you can actually, because I told her, hey, we should, start a business together. Let's find something that we're passionate about. And, and she thought, oh, wow, no one's ever told me that. And I didn't realize that you could just do that. And I'm like, for me, it was weird because it was like second nature. And it was almost like maybe even first nature. I was like, well, that's what you do, And so, she loved handbags, and I knew how to sew, and we actually were restoring an old 1950 Buick, and they don't come with seatbelts back then. So we had purchased this Buick from a neighbor. It had been sitting in the driveway here in Santa Ana, on Bristol actually, right by Floral Park. So you guys probably don't know with that reference, but I would drive by there, and I just look at that thing every day, and I'm like, dang, it's just sitting there. I wonder if she'd ever sell it. And so, and one day I ended up knocking on the door, and I'm like, hey, do you want to, I noticed your Buick's been sitting here and no one ever drives it. Would you ever consider selling it? And she's like, yeah, I'll sell it. And I was like, oh my gosh. So, it wasn't running, and so I had to kind of get it running, and then, didn't have seatbelts or anything like that. And so when I was installing the seatbelt, I actually went down to the upholstery store and bought seatbelt, and we had a little home sewing machine. I'm like, I'm just going to do this from scratch because I wanted to put the seatbelts in, and we ended up with a lot of leftover seatbelt, and my wife's like, wow, it'd be cool if you could make a bag out of this seatbelt. And I was like, oh, you know what, my grandmother, who's Polynesian, taught me how to weave baskets. And so the very first seatbelt bag was like a woven design that I used the seatbelt, and I was kind of messing around with it, and I was like trying to explain it to my wife. She's like, I can't follow you. Just make it. So, I spent all night just kind of tinkering with it on the sewing machine, and just like a little home sewing, like a Sears sewing machine, nothing industrial or anything. And then in the morning when she woke up, I had it sitting on the bedside table. And she looked at it and she's like, wow, that's really cool. You made that? And I was like, yeah, man. I was, I think, we were struggling. I mean, like any young couple, we didn't have a lot of money. So, instead of going out to buy a bag, I was like, I can make that, So she ended up taking it to work, and, a lot of her friends were like, wow, that's a really cool bag. You're like, where'd you get that? And, it kind of started out with selling them to friends, and like, she'd be like, hey, my friend wants one of these bags, and we'd kind of just do it in the evenings, and, kind of just never really thought still like this is what we're going to do for a living. And we ended up selling a bag to a friend that worked at American Rag, which is a really nice store up in Los Angeles off La Brea. And she was using the bag one day, and the store owner said, hey, where'd you get that bag? And she's like, oh, my friend made him, told her the whole story. And she's like, hey, I want to sell those here. And so she called me up and told me the story. I'm like, no way. Like that was like our first break, to get into that store. And I'd heard of the store because it's a pretty nice store. And, we showed up for the interview or the buying meeting. And I had like a prototype, and the lady's like, oh yeah, that's cool. I want 12 of them. I was like, oh, 12, I got to make those. She's like, how long will it take you to make those? And I said, give me a week. And so, I went down to the upholstery store and bought up all the seatbelt they had, and, just kind of made them in the evenings. And a week later I went and delivered those, and they sold out like real quick, like right away. The store owner was calling me a couple of days later, and it's like, can you make me some more? I need this many. And so it kind of just evolved, and we just financed the business like that. As we would just get sales and then just put the money back into the business and keep our day jobs, and it just kind of grew like that.
So you were working full time, and then dedicating time on top of that to your business.
Exactly.
And then where do you find that sort of? Is it a labor of love? Is it because you wanted to go pursue something and be your own, boss? Like where does that come from?
The drive, the motivation.
Yeah, I think it came from, I was just excited that somebody wanted to buy something. And this isn't the days before we had like Etsy and all of these.
Yeah, all the creator platforms.
Yeah, so you kind of had to sell through a platform like a retail store. So, wholesale was kind of your entry point. Whereas today, a lot of people have a similar story, but it's definitely it's become a lot easier for people to connect to the customers directly. And so, we were just so excited to say that our bags that we were making, like, in the living room in the evenings were like being sold in a store. It was kind of like, that drove us, just like that pride, I guess, of entrepreneurship, I guess. But I guess it wasn't even a choice. It was just like, hey, we can do this, let's do it. And slowly, like, we got to a point where I was making them, and then other stores were contacting us, and they had seen the bags, and it got to a point where I had to go part-time, and then at the job at the time, I was working for basically an attorney service, which is driving around to all the court buildings and dropping off court documents.
Yeah.
Doing the filings and everything. But when I would go to LA, I'd go to the fabric stores and buy lining and buy like this and that. And so it was kind of a good place to be. But it just sort of grew. And then one day we woke up and we're like, wow, I guess we're doing this full time. Yeah.
So how long did it take you roughly to get from that first couple orders and you doing it on your own or your own time after work? Like, what was that time frame wise? Because I think a lot of people think, especially because in today's world, with social media and the power of deception, you can look like you have everything under the sun with social media, but in reality, the car was somebody else's, the house that you took the photo in front of was someone else's. Like, there's a lot of hype being built in today's world, but sometimes people don't really have any of that. Back then, you're having to hustle and create everything from scratch. So how, like, that rough time frame of doing it on the side, you got your second order, you had other stores calling you. What was that timeline for you guys to be able to say, okay, I guess we're doing this as a full-time business?
Yeah, I mean, it was progressive. I think within a year we had both quit our day jobs basically. And so, it was almost like we didn't just expect this overnight success. It was more or less like incremental, and we're like, oh, okay, we have enough money to buy another sewing machine, and we have enough money to hire another sewer. And we were growing out of our little house. We had like a 2-bedroom house, and it had a little garage, but we ended up having about 6 or 7 workers like showing up to the house every day.
Oh, that's cool.
To work. And even like the neighbors, this is in Santa Ana, so we would hire like the neighbors' kids and be like, hey, you want a job, summer job? And they'd come over and help us, and we would have delivery trucks like big rigs showing up to the front, like asking, do you guys have a forklift? I got a couple of pellets here. And we're like, oh no, we don't know forklift. Look where you are, So we were growing literally out of the garage for about 2 years until we're like, okay, we got to take that next step. And so I think, we never tried to get ahead of ourselves. We tried to live within our means, and we didn't go, get a check from a store for the bags and then go shopping. It's like, no, let's reinvest this. Let's put this money into the business instead of trying to live on it and keep our day jobs as long as possible. So it was, definitely there were times when we ate a lot of top ramen. We literally were like, hey, we didn't want to spend a lot of money, so we just would skimp everything possible. We'd try to cut costs or do things cheaper, and then just put that money back into the business and buy new machines, or get our first warehouse. Was like 1,000 square foot little spot, and that seemed so huge.
Yeah.
And then we ended up moving because we had machines set up in the house, and we had all the racks and the materials in the living room, and we moved into this into our very first industrial little unit. We took everything out of the house, and we could hear this echo of like, wow, we can hear our echo. What's going on? It's like because we had so much stuff in this house that it became, like our little factory.
Where does that discipline come for you? Because it's very easy to be like, oh yeah, I got a little bit of success. If I just pour more time and energy into it, like it's gonna blow up even more. But you decided not to quit your job right away, to cut back on costs, to reinvest back into the business. Is it because you wanted it to see it grow, or are those lessons that you learned from your parents being entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I think it was. My dad was definitely very frugal, and so he would, do all kinds of things to try to save money, and he never really was. He made us, earn everything that we had, and so nothing was given to us. It's like if we wanted something, he'd give us a pathway to earn it, And so I had a paper route to buy my first bicycle, and I would go and earn everything that I had, and so I think it just it's also, I was lucky enough to find a partner in life, but also a business partner that was very smart. And so my wife, we're different. So, what's different about us is what attracted us together. But also when it came to business, where I had certain skill sets, she, kind of leveled out on the other side. So she was very, organized, and, she took care of all the books. And it's kind of funny because in the beginning we wanted to seem like we were a bigger company, and so people would call and ask for us, but she'd be answering the phone. She's like, "Oh, let me get Melanie. Hold on." And then she'd like change her voice a little bit. It's kind of funny. We chuckle about that, but
awesome.
we just I think
cool.
it was kind of learned from the parents. It was like a skill of like making the right choices instead of just
blowing it all.
Yeah, and
which is easy to do.
It is.
I mean, especially like you said, you came here with essentially nothing, right? Like, and had to earn and build. And I think, especially now, more now than I think back then, but it still would have been easy back then. But now it's like you're always trying to keep up with the Joneses, right? Like your neighbor shows up with a new Mercedes, so it's like, oh, they have it. The house next door has it. The house next door has it. Like, I don't belong. And it's so easy in today's world to be like, I need to have all these things so I fit in, especially living in Orange County, like we're in one of the most superficial areas I think you could live in.
Yeah.
And so to be able to have, like Manny was saying, to have that discipline and being able to keep a true side hustle that turned into a business. That's what you hear so many people talk about, like I don't know if you guys listen to the podcast, like How I Built This.
Yeah.
But same thing, a lot of these companies, unless they were lucky or had a different heads up or a head start with a little bit more financial cushion behind them, a lot of them had a side hustle and they turned it into what we know now as some of like the largest companies. So you got your first warehouse here in Santa Ana also?
Yeah.
Actually
Actually, it was in Orange. So our very first one was right on the edge of Santa Ana and Orange. And then we just kind of slowly grew, and then we needed a bigger spot. So within a year, we had kind of acquired the one next door, and then just organically growing is at the pace. Like we never really got like a business loan. We just sort of self-funded. And
so you've organically grown since?
Yeah.
Because like for me, looking on the outside in, like we were saying kind of before we started, like I've obviously we know each other, but I don't know how you got to the Harveys of today. Because when I look at Harveys today, it's like, dang, dude, you got a massive operation now. So people that don't know, you have and this is a question I want to know too, but you have built this cult following. So he has these releases, and he would get lines just wrapped down the building, like pre-release for people to line up to buy whatever new product they were dropping. How do you go from hustling out of your garage and your living room to lines and lines down the street?
Yeah, I mean, I feel so blessed that we do have that like loyal following, and we have customers that are super passionate. They collect the bags like crazy. Whatever we come out with, like it seems like we can't even keep things in stock. And I think it's because we committed to being American made, And that kind of was instilled as a kid to actually like the process of making something instead of, just ordering it and having somebody else make it and then it's delivered. And so we never really let that go. From the days that we were making things in the garage and in the living room, like it just progressed to where we didn't even like think of it as an option to outsource that or, get it made overseas.
You could have saved so much money and made more money in your pocket.
Yeah, definitely. So, that was something which is ironic as an immigrant wanting to be
American
made in
owned,
America.
baby. Yeah.
And so through that process, we've evolved with the way that retail has evolved and wholesale. And so, like I was saying in the beginning, there really wasn't an internet when we first started out. There weren't any platforms I think our very first website, when we got one, it was, super basic. We actually can find it on the internet. Go on the internet and you can like find these sites that'll host like your site way back when. And it was so primitive, but like people were jumping on. I mean, this is like, early 2000s where we were like, hey, let's just do a website. But we were at the right time, I think, to kind of enter into this, into the technology era. And we were definitely, because we were a smaller startup at the time, we didn't really have to question it. We're just like, oh, yeah, let's just do that. So through that, we started out, selling at wholesale, and then we're like, okay, well, let's open a website. And so we kind of structured our products, for wholesale. But then as we, got more into retail and online, we realized, hey, the margins are a lot better. And so, we still maintained the wholesale, but because we had such a high demand for our products, and with the limited supply being made in the U.S., we found that we'd be selling out and then referring our customers to our wholesale accounts, and it didn't make much sense because we'd be like selling out and then they'd call us, hey, we want this, and we're like, oh, you can go here and get it, you can go here. So a couple of years ago we decided to pull back all of our wholesale and just do retail only. And so with our new factory, we opened a retail store on site, and with the website we're able to pretty much sell everything that we can make, and it's been so much better because the margins obviously are a lot better because we're not selling to wholesale.
Yeah.
But we also we have a partnership with Disney. We do licensing, and that's been ongoing for about 10 years, and that's the only wholesale account that we'll sell to is Disney. And so yeah, we sell to them. I think it's a good way to get exposure to like new customers, and it does make sense. And we've done collaborations with a lot of different artists and different companies. But Disney's been a good one for us because I think it resonates with our customer base, and they really like. There's so many stories to tell within the Disney, all the Disney assets that they have.
I mean, they're still telling stories from 50 years ago.
Exactly.
Just retelling them. Yeah. So is that where a lot of those releases would come from, is through the Disney Channel?
Yeah, a lot of those, through definitely like that helps, because we get that. But we're finding now that just even like our seasonal product, so we'll make stuff that's non-Disney too. And even that is like, becoming very collectible. Yeah. And there's like a whole second market for our products. So we'll sell out really quick, but we try to monitor so that people aren't, we don't have resellers where they're buying multiple bags and then trying to resell them. But you can't really control it that much.
Yeah.
But that's definitely a big thing. The customers get really frustrated because we'll do a release that'll sell out in a couple of minutes, and then it's on eBay, and
for 10 times more. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
And
like
so,
shoes.
yeah.
Dude, when I say like,
yeah,
I'm
it's
talking
kind of like that.
Like lines, he'll literally have lines down the block. And you'll drive, because when I used to live down there, I would drive by like daily.
Yeah, what's going on?
And sometimes I'm like, what the heck? Like,
they would camp out. We would have a release on Saturday. They would start camping out on Wednesday, and it's funny because the police thought that was like a homeless encampment because they would like totally camp out.
Dude, it's crazy. Like he literally, you guys built a cult following, and that's something that is not easy. I mean, it's easy to do, but not easy to do. I think it was Tim from Rich or Poorer said. His quote like resonated with me. He said, "It's in today's world, it's never been easier to start a business, but it's never been harder to scale a business." So how, as technology evolves and like you said, you've changed your business model, how do you continue to find ways to stay relevant and kind of stay ahead of the curve, if not, on the curve?
Well, we, pulling back from the wholesale was huge because we had to, play these games with all the big department store and it was rough because they would kind of built into their structure like this chargeback system. And so when we were selling to Nordstrom's, we'd ship to them, but then they would have this list of rules. And like, if you broke any of them, they'd like charge back. And we're like, we weren't really making money there. And so we decided, like, when we pulled back wholesale, we're like, we can just make this for ourselves and call the shots. And then we don't, some of the wholesale accounts would be releasing product or they'd sell it cheaper. And we didn't really have that, control over the product. But now it seems like we're able to sell everything we make. And our because we have limited capacity, because, we don't want to make overseas, we're able to kind of produce the amount that we're doing, and it's not and make the revenue that we need to based on how much we can make. And so
that's cool.
Yeah, instead of selling, because I think we were at one point about 75% wholesale. So when we cut that, it was a big risk because we're like, we're cutting a huge channel off of 75.
I'd say a guaranteed
we're
channel.
We're like, let's take the leap because we only have to recapture half of that to be the same profit margin, basically. And then we can connect to the customers directly and make what we want and call the shots. So it was a good choice. And when we moved to this new right down the street from you, it was kind of, before that we were renting like a warehouse, and we'd been there for about 10 years, and then we had the opportunity to utilize the small business SBA loan to purchase a property. And when we were looking for properties, we knew that we wanted to be kind of in a unique neighborhood because we'd been in an industrial area. Yeah. And we're like, let's find something close to downtown Santa Ana because we really like the vibe there. But you can't really be in downtown because it's like, set up for retail. Yeah. So I basically just drove around Santa Ana and looked for really cool buildings. And I spotted like these old Quonset huts, which they almost look like an airplane hangar. And they were built in the 40s. This particular property was built in the 40s for to assist with the war effort. So they were actually manufacturing aircraft components in these buildings.
At those ones?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So it was a total Rosie the Riveter setup because when we moved in, they had a bank of women's restrooms and one men's restroom. And we're like,
that's funny.
It must have been a whole like women's crew, right?
That's cool.
Yeah. And so we were looking for a place to move to, and it wasn't on the market, but I knocked on the door and I talked to the owner there, and it was a diesel repair shop. Yeah. So
that's what I remember.
Diesel, yeah, Santa Ana Diesel, and the owner had actually worked there since the 70s. He ended up buying the business from his boss when he retired, and then he was ready to retire. And he said that he'd been approached by real estate developers, and they were going to tear it down. And I was the only one that said, "No way! I want to keep these buildings." And so. I didn't even know that it included the concrete building next door. So I thought it was just going to be the two Quonset huts, and he's like, "Oh no, it's all three." And I'm like, "Oh, perfect." And so I connected with Luis, who and he kind of guided me on the developing, and I really, going from handbags to like developing a property, because we didn't need the whole
property.
The whole property, yeah. For what we needed, we just needed like the one concrete building, and so he had done a lot of projects, and he'd worked on the Roost where he used to be, and he kind of guided me. He said, "You know what? Turn this into like a little incubator for small businesses, and kind of create your own community here." So we're almost done, but we've gotten our building done, and then these other buildings we're going to subdivide, and we're turning it into a few restaurants. A barbershop's opened up. There's a dance studio. So we're really enjoying a whole nother side of business that I never really anticipated, which is property development.
Yeah, so that's all since I've known you then.
Yeah, that's all.
So
new.
that's all literally started since I've known you, and since then you've been able to continue to grow that side of things.
Right, and it all started from the SBA loans that they have. So if you do an SBA loan to purchase a property, you have to occupy 51%. But the rest of that you can lease out. And so, it just became, you know, I just kind of fell into like doing
awesome.
property development. And it's ironic because my dad, you know, went from restaurants to doing property development in his later years. And so it's something that I kind of, you know, watched when he was building like our restaurants and things growing up. So I kind of had a bug for the building thing and loved doing like little building projects on the side. But, you know, this was, you know, something that I really had a deep down passion for is doing, you know, this developing thing. And so being guided by Luis and there's a, you know, a little group of us that are all kind of like, you know, hang out and we talk about, you know, developing and these things. And it's really helped.
And that's insane. Because that's what I mean, you know, I've talked to you about it in Luis too. Like that's what I would love to get into, but it's like in today's world, man, you're either getting outbid or someone's walking in with cash, or, you know, I sell a $4 coffee, so it's like I got to sell lots of those, you know, like whatever the case may be. But being able to take all the skill sets that you've learned as being an entrepreneur and a business owner, like they're universal. It doesn't matter if you're selling coffee, handbags, boxing gloves, they're all universal. And I think that's something that, you know, you can gravitate and lean towards. Like anytime I find, like, not to sound cliche and cheesy, but anytime like I can find another entrepreneur that I like get along with, we usually have a lot better of an understanding of what each other goes through, because business is business. It doesn't matter what section or industry or anything like that. It's all universal principles. And that's something that's been so cool to hear on this podcast so far, is like pretty much every guest that we've had that is an entrepreneur, they all have the same story. It's just one's construction, one's burritos, one's socks, one's handbags, one is fish tacos. You know, it's all one thing that has morphed into so many different things. And that's the ability to be able to adapt and pivot and be able to take what we've learned and hustled for and turn that into other things. Dude, it's rad. It's so cool to see that.
Thanks, man. I think, you know, I heard, I don't know if you guys have heard of Jim Rohn. He's like a motivational speaker.
Jim Rohn? Yeah.
Yeah. He has a quote where he says, "You become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." And I really, you know, I read that and I'm like, dang, that's so sense. True. But it made me realize, like, you better be careful who you hang out with, because you obviously don't want to hang out with people that are bad influence. But it does show you how important it is to, you know, choose the right people that are supportive and encouraging, and you know, you definitely can tell when there's someone that's not. Or, you know, I think growing up, I've been lucky that, you know, most of the people that I've chose to gravitate around that have been supportive and encouraging, and they want to see you succeed. And so, you know, I think with Luis, he's one that's really helped guide, and I think Carlos, you know, like, you know, these guys are really supportive, and they guide you. Like if you don't know what you're doing, they're like, hey, you know, do it this way, or this is how you do this, or, you know. So that's, you know, I definitely owe my success as far as the property development to that little group. Yeah. That really helped out a lot. Yeah.
That's so cool. No, Luis has done so much for us. So it's you know, and it's one of those things where, you know, when you're building relationships and community with people, like if you're genuine and real, the people that you're with are going to be genuine and real for the most part. And if not, at least I'm the type of person where I'm like, I don't want to spend my time with you. Like, get out. I'll get what I need. You'll get what you need. Exactly. And then we go our separate ways.
Yeah, he definitely. You got to get him on the podcast,
right? I know he'll come on. I told him I need to have some better bathrooms and stuff like that before he can grace us with his presence.
Hold that, dangle that carrot.
Yeah. I want to know. So, what's next for you and Harvey's? I mean, I know that's kind of like a loaded question, but, you know, are you going to continue to just take the model that you've had over the last several years and just continue to grow, you know, naturally, organically? Do you have anything big planned that you can talk about? If not, like, no worries.
No, it's a good question. I think in the very beginning, we were driven to, like, you know, be this huge company that's going to, you know, be in all the department stores and you know, be this, like, you know, multi-million-dollar company. And I think we're celebrating our 25th year next year, which is amazing, right? Like, just to be in business that long. And we're realizing that quality of life, and you hear people talking about that work-life balance, is really important. And I think we like the growth, and we definitely have been able to become more profitable as we went away from, you know, wholesale. And so we had to reassess what our goals are. And we're like, what does growth in this area mean if you're kind of chasing this thing that really isn't you? And you look at these other companies and how they're doing it, and you're trying to model your company after that. When I think now we're realizing, like, hey, we love making stuff. We love making it here and being a part of that hands-on process. And like, we don't really need to become this huge corporation and have like a bunch of employees. It's like, we have some employees that have been with us like 20 years, and
that's awesome.
we're seeing their kids be born and graduate college. It's like,
that's
to me, I feel like that's a success story right there. And I think we just had to readjust our sights and figure out, like, what are we chasing here? Like, what's going to bring us happiness? And I think, having these connections with our customers and I think that's so rewarding, is to work on a collection, because we do a lot of releases. I think we do 2 a month.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a pretty
You gotta
fast
be on
pace.
it.
Yeah, we've kind of fine-tuned our design process, and we've been lucky enough where the collections just sell out. We can't even keep it on the shelf, and I think that's very rewarding to know that what you're working on, people want.
Yeah.
And I think we measure success in those terms, other than like, becoming this huge company and
losing sight of that stuff.
Yeah. And so it's a really good feeling. I mean, to be in a spot where we can call the shots and we don't have to, play the games with the department stores and then, if they don't sell it, they mark it on sale and they don't really handle it properly and all these other things. And so we just kind of pulled back, and we realized that when we did that, we actually attained greater success than we had ever had. And so we've had like the best year that we've ever had during the pandemic, which is ironic.
Yeah.
And luckily we weren't, heavily reliant on wholesale, because we had pulled back like a year before the
So
pandemic.
you were almost ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we definitely had to close up shop, and, my wife and I never stopped coming to work. And so we would sit and fulfill orders that were coming in on the website. And when we ran out of stuff on the shelves, we started being creative and doing pre-orders of things that we could get made locally. Like, well, let's screen T-shirts and let's do this. And so we would give other businesses that would work with business, they were like, give us some work. We can do this, we can do that. So we got creative through the pandemic and really started connecting directly to our customers and say, what do you guys want? Or we would come up with products that we could make locally without our crew here, and cool. We'd have them vote, like, this is what we're thinking about. What do you guys think? And they'd pick a design, and then we'd make that. So just having that direct connection to the customer, I think, has become very rewarding. But that's a great question. It's like, what really is success? It's different for everybody, and so I feel like we've gotten to a spot where we feel like, we're in that little happy place, and like we'll just keep plugging away.
Keep going. That's the less is more.
It is,
you think.
Exactly.
I had that same mentality. When we went from 1 to 4 stores, it was like you always think, if I'm in 100 locations, we're gonna be crushing it. But the reality was, that's not true. Yeah, we had a lot of locations and a big presence, but what good is a lot of locations and a big presence if it's not helping your profitability, right? Like, and I think a lot of business owners out there, or even people that are thinking about starting businesses, like you always think more. Well, sometimes less is genuinely more. And I think learning, at least for me, learning that lesson was a big lesson to learn, like, mentally, financially, everything. But I now understand the concept of less is more,
Right.
And quality versus quantity.
It's true. I mean, it sounds cliche, but like, it's, I can tell you, we've lived where we were trying to chase this dream of being a huge corporation. And when we stayed more in our zone at like mom and pop, it feels so much better.
Yeah.
And it is hard, honestly, to scale a company and bring on more employees, especially in California. It's a challenge. I mean, the odds are stacked against you, but you can. Luckily, we've been very blessed when it comes to employees, because, like I was saying, we've got employees that have stayed with us for 20 plus years, and just you gotta lean on your team and give them what they deserve, and and hopefully everybody can find success with what we're doing. So
That's what I like to hear.
yeah,
That's what I like
That's
to
a
hear.
good definition, though, because you hear a lot of companies or a lot of owners talk about, the bottom line or what's in it for, like, what's best for us. But the fact that you're thinking of others and you're thinking about making sure you take care of your employees, in return, they're going to take care of you, and they're going to have some pride in working for the company,
It's so good to just come to work and see those familiar faces. And about a year and a half ago, I had a bout with cancer. And
Whoa.
yeah.
I don't think I even knew that.
No, it was rough. And, leading the team, I had to definitely lean on them because I had to go through treatment. And, my wife was taking care of me, and she had to step away from the business. But luckily, the team kind of picked up the pace, man. And they knew, they all came together. They would write me letters, and like when I was going through treatment, and that was definitely like pulled me out of it. And I think when you get really low like that, and you feel like you can't pull from anything, and you don't have any more energy left, you need someone to come in and pull you up. And that was the team. It was like, dude, I gotta make it through. Look at everybody's like counting on me to get better. And
that's insane.
Yeah. So I've been cancer free for about a year and a half now.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
That's how I lost all the weight, man.
I honestly had no idea.
Really? Oh, okay. No, I wasn't really blasting it out, but I think it's important to say, because, when you're in those times where you just want to give up, I think you got to fight, sometimes not for yourself. You got to fight for other people, because,
Well, yeah, they're counting on you. You're legit, because I grew up with my parents having, lots of employees, and a lot of them were there for 20 plus years, where they were genuinely providing.
Oh, it's like a family, dude. Yeah, it's an extended family, and I think that's a big part why we're still made in the USA. It's like, it's not just it's not just a phrase, made in the USA. It's the people that are behind it, and providing those jobs and a purpose for everybody. And when we could bring people back, like, they were ready. They're like, I know it was a little tough because some people were getting unemployment, but we paid our employees, and we made sure, let's dig deep, and let's make sure that everyone, don't worry about it, and we got you, and they appreciated that. But
that's
but it's
huge.
definitely like a family. Yeah, it's awesome.
That is so cool. And you're the two back-to-backs of the American dream, man. Like, I said at the beginning, but I get the chills. I get like that bit of emotion behind it, because, again, in the heightened culture that we're in, it's like, unless you've been around the world, it's very easy to say how bad we are here, right? Like, of course we have flaws. Like, there's flaws everywhere. But when you've been around the world and you've seen the things that are out there, that's when you start to understand, holy crap, we're so blessed here.
There's something special here. And unfortunately, like you were saying, in these times, a lot of people are talking about rights and privileges, when really it should be responsibility.
Yeah.
Like, we should be talking about responsibilities, and hopefully we can, inspire people to, follow their dreams and be responsible, and not look for someone to give that to you. But that's the big thing.
Man, I appreciate you. I thank you for making the time to come on and talk with us.
Yeah, it's been great.
I love hearing these stories. Like, seriously, like I was saying to you right before we started, like, I know you, but you learn so much when it's in this setting,
Yeah.
Because we're not going to go grab a beer together, and I'm not going to sit there and grill you with questions. Like, that would
Why
be
not?
like, I mean, maybe we could, because then you would learn a lot more, but it's more so, hey, let's go hang out, especially like when you guys are getting coffee, making fun of each other, having fun, it's, it's different in this setting.
I'm honored that you guys had me on, and like I said, I'm following you guys, and so you guys have so much potential, and I think, we're seeing the consistency, and it's definitely a place to come to learn, and I've been learning from all of your guests. So thank you guys.
That's awesome.
So maybe in one of his properties, he'll set us up a studio then.
Oh, hey, I love this studio. What are you talking about?
That's good.
Tell us where people can kind of find you. We want this to be something where obviously. Yeah, we're on Instagram, Facebook. You can find us at shopharveys.com. Shopharveys.com.
And what's the Instagram name? Is it just
at
Harvey's?
Shop Harveys.
At Shop Harveys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, if you're into women's handbags, or just want to watch,
So just want to
watch Made in the USA.
Yeah, you just want to go check out what you're doing.
We got these dude shirts.
I know, I'm excited to try mine on.
I swagged out you guys. So
Heck yeah.
Maybe next podcast you'll be rocking them.
That's true. That's true.
I'm in. I'll do it.
Manny, you got anything else?
No. I'm honored to have you on and to hear your story.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks, guys.
it.
Yeah.
I love that you opened
honor.
up about the cancer. I lost my boxing coach to cancer, and so it's awesome that you're willing to share and share how you got out of it and kind of what motivated you to get out of it. So just appreciate you, man, and thank you so much for being here.
Appreciate you guys.
For your time.
All right,
Yes,
guys.
sir. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
You good? All right. Well, that's it for us, and remember that everything's impossible until someone did it. So, guys, remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. You can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/The Fight Within Podcast. Find us on all audio platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, anywhere you guys like to listen to it. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for continuing to listen to it and watch it. We can see the growth on our analytics, and just want to thank you guys for supporting us. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Kingdom Nutrition. Make sure you guys go and visit their site over at kingdomnutrition.com and enter promo code MFW10 to get 10% off your next purchase. Kingdom Nutrition carries the best sports supplements on the market. They manufacture and curate their own line of supplements with the highest quality ingredients, including a lean protein, weight gainer protein, pre-workout, BCAAs, and an array of other products. They've recently created the world's first vegan chickpea protein, and it tastes amazing. I'm a big dude. I like food, and I like chocolate. So when they told me it comes in chocolate and vanilla, I got really happy. But if you're a workout enthusiast and you want to change up your diet, change up your protein, go check out their vanilla chickpea protein. It mixes well with anything. It'll blend great with a smoothie. So to get your hands on any of these products, just make sure and go visit kingdomnutrition.com. Remember to enter promo code MFW10 and get 10% off your next purchase. Let's go.